Right.
Rolling?
Yeah.
A rolling, B rolling, C rolling. Okay. So you've just sat down, your first interview, you've asked your first question. Tell me what that feeling's like.
It's a conversation you're about to have. The edit's always in your head. Usually it's fascinating because everyone has a different way of answering the questions. You're conscious of the humanistic side of it, and making that connection is really important.
Great stuff.
When I was younger, I had to leave and go to London because the thought of living in Leicester and being a creative just didn't seem viable. You know, it is possible to live in the Midlands, in Leicester and Loughborough, and work here and be a creative and live a meaningful life that gets you paid. So I think there's part of that to try and keep good people here and avoid the brain drain.
Over a long period of time, there's been quite a reluctance to collaborate or talk to each other. These organisations have all sort of existed in their own little silos for quite a long time, but they're now starting to talk to each other a lot more, and there's a real eagerness to start doing things collectively, because the more we can collaborate in terms of different strands of different stuff going on, we can share those audiences and generally lift the amount of culture accessible to the local town.
Action.
It took us ages to find the place here, and when we saw it, it was a bit raw and a bit...
But when we walked in, we were like, this is it, isn't it?
This is weird
This
enough.
is it.
Yeah, it's quite weird enough for us. So we spent probably a year refurbing the space, and then as we were doing that, we were starting to have relationships with other creatives in the local area that had a desire to be in the same space, you know, whether they collaborated professionally or in their practice development or whatever it might all be. We wanted to try and find a vehicle that actually got people paid for doing what they love, rather than just doing free internships. From a development point of view, it meant that the guys that were coming straight out of university that we didn't see as particularly work ready, we've enabled them to grow in terms of their experience of being in a professional studio environment, which can be fun as well.
So that kind of framework you've set up lends itself to creatives from different fields, from different levels of experience, and you're trying to create kind of a microcosm, like a culture, that enables all of those people to thrive. From the moment we walked into Institute, we got it. It's so cool. And we really understand what they're trying to do there, because we're trying to do the same thing. It's about a creative network. It's about bringing lots of different ideas to the same table to just make stuff that means something.
A lot of my inspiration comes from ecosystems. A healthy ecosystem is one where there are lots of connected parts, there's lots of movement and change. If an ecosystem isn't dynamic, it becomes very unhealthy. What they're trying to do at Institute is to create a healthy ecosystem, but for the arts. One thing for me is not to regard other businesses as competitors, but potential collaborators. And of course, the Institute can lead on that. It can bring people together and help us collaborate. And I think creating something where people can come, be creative, learn from each other, connect, I think is a very valuable thing to do.
Okay, so Institute. It's about communication of ideas. Okay, we use a really simple bottom line. Idea, the media that we use to communicate it, and the audience that it ends up with. If we just say that's the simple bottom line, that means we can work with filmmakers, we can work with artists, we can work across the kind of spread.
When you've got a coder sat next to a fine artist, they're all working on different projects, and then you've got a guy doing web and a guy doing branding and a guy doing photography and a guy doing video. It just means that that melting pot means that there's different challenges from different disciplines, and different generations will have a different point of view on things.
So we're very open-minded about how we go about the work and potential solutions that we could deliver.
We wanted to try and find a way of getting different disciplines in the room to add value to that output. Institute as a brand is essentially the mechanism for us to collaborate professionally, to encourage other freelancers to get out their bedrooms, get into a professional studio in an affordable way. So having a solid network of reliable freelancers and people that we know and trust is key. We're hoping that becomes a melting pot of great stuff.
It's really like complex, because what they're trying to do is create a framework for like 1,000 different ideas, and that's like a mind-bending thing to get your head around. But Steve and Guy are doing it. They've figured out a way.
What we want to keep away from is the idea of content. The idea that you're born and then you die, and on your grave it said created content. That's a waste of life.
Yeah, I'm getting really pissed off with just doing content for sake of content. It's boring. Everybody's just churning out a commentary on the same thing.
Life is more meaningful than that. There's something more to life than that. You should be doing stuff that you need to do, that you feel compelled to do, or you're getting paid to do. And life is not about content. You don't have to be spending all your time on Instagram pretending that you're living an amazing life when you're obviously not.
Is that all right?
Because in reality, like, your value is what you can bring to a subject, isn't it? It's your opinion. I think that's what ultimately, if you realise like what art is, it's looking at, you're in essence, the art is the way someone curates life and the way someone sees it and the way someone then turns that into something. So the more you can develop that kind of internal discussion and facilitate the time and the space and the environment for people to realise, do you know what, like, this is my art, this is what I stand for, this is what I'm about, then the more stuff is going to be made that's meaningful. Because yeah, you and I know that in a business you can make what's being done, and yeah, you will get work for a while, but is that going to give you work in 10 years? And is it actually going to make you feel happy and fulfilled? Because are you just doing churn because you want to earn money, or you're doing this because you want to do it and it's what you like doing? And that really, I suppose, within the creative industry is your ultimate balancing act of, okay, I need to earn cash, but I didn't get into this because I want to be a millionaire. I want to do this because I want to make cool shit that I like. So I think that, again, where you have this community that can support those decisions, the chance of you probably having a better balance of that is far greater.
That worldview is so important, to realise that this connectedness is what drives things, and it will make people better creative practitioners and better collaborators. So if you can do that with the creative industries or the creative culture of a town like Loughborough, get the movement happening, get information flowing around, get people working together, it has to be a positive thing.
Guy gave me a book called Processing, which is a book all about using programming language to like draw and, you know, do art and that kind of stuff. And apparently he tried to hand this book off to like several other people, and people had looked at it and like, you know, flipped through a couple of pages and went, no, absolutely not, pushed it back to him. And I was the first person to keep hold of it, which I find quite funny. And yeah, that was kind of how I got into the Institute. I spent 6 months with Guy and Steve. I did some sort of generative-y code, we call it code sketching, with graphic-y stuff.
We're looking at technicians that might find new ways of dealing with media and kind of open our minds.
Having Joe here, I got to see how he worked, got to see how his brain thought. He developed bits of code and software in his downtime. That was an amazing person to be able to potentially look to work with. So I offered him a 6-month contract.
Ben's very good at breaking down that thought process behind the design so I can understand why it was built that way and then how I can use that methodology to inform my development.
So it's been very rewarding for me and hopefully for Joe anyway.
Anything more you wanted me to focus on, or?
No, I think we can go a bit deeper into actual work. Everyone has their own unique perspective and expertise, so you're trying to tap into that. You're trying to understand what an AR developer knows without knowing anything about AR. You're trying to understand a business and their place in the world.
We needed a space to be able to collaborate and bring artists in periodically, so they needed desks. As a business, we need meeting space to be able to bring clients in. The core of it is trying to be multifunctional. Part of the development of the community here means that we want to do talks, workshops, art events, and it stems into what we're trying to do with our associate network. That's shared audiences.
So we're looking at finding more meaningful ways to get things across, and we look at what this idea does in relation to your audience.
You're in the position where you have the opportunity to draw people's attention to what is actually happening. And I think ultimately with anything, it is just visibility, isn't it? You need to just show it. If Institute starts then generating the interdisciplinary work and the people combining, and that's great, because what that does is then show that it's viable. That's where I think Institute is in a really good position to kind of influence and pull people in.
I'm not a super kind of social person or very good at getting myself out there. The Institute has been really good for putting me into contact with other people who have been inspiring in their own different ways.
What excited me about the potential of what the Institute can offer is that it's happening here at a relatively untapped creative environment. We know there are lots of creative people around, you've talked to a lot of them, but when was the last time, apart from what happens here, when was the last time there was an opportunity for these creative people to come together and learn from each other?
It's got the right mindset behind it, it's got the right ethos behind it, it's got the right people involved in it.
The events they do are part of a more connected Loughborough when it comes to the arts. So it's a real stimulus, I think. They're acting as a stimulus, a sort of way in which things can be brought to Loughborough and made to happen in Loughborough.
Regionally, they're starting to make better connections too as well. You know, we've got quite a good longer-term working relationship with the guys over at LCB, and we've got the Phoenix that we're running the Real programme with, and there is like a desire to make the region a creative powerhouse.
So this mixed bag all comes down to the communication of ideas. That's it.
Institute means something different to everyone who goes there. Everyone brings their own agenda, and everyone who feeds into that just makes it stronger, just makes it better and cooler, and representing that scene and that culture, working with those kinds of people and giving them like a stronger voice, giving creative businesses a stronger profile, really like raising and investing in that economy is like exactly why we're doing what we're doing. Yeah, cool.
Great stuff.